Hello, everyone. It is Kevin Henry. I'm the editor-in-chief for drbicuspid.com, and welcome back to another edition of the drbicuspid.com podcast. Hey, today we're talking money. We're talking the fourth quarter. We're talking some ways that you can not only alleviate some stress at the end of the year, but also boost up that business at the very end. And we're talking to a dear friend of mine, and that is Nancy Coy. Hey, Nancy, how are you?
Great, Kevin. Thanks so much.
I am so
Great to
glad
be
you're
here.
on. Nancy and I just finished recording an episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast where we talked to the dental assistants about how important this time of year is and their role with that. And Dennis, this one's all about you as we really talk about that fourth quarter and diving into those revenue numbers. But before we get into all that, I've got to have Nancy tell us a little bit about herself, and then I'm going to pick her brain. So get ready.
Yeah. Well, again, great to be here, Kevin. Thanks so much. Been in the industry, gosh, almost 35 years. I sort of feel like a fossil. I've been around for so long, but I started my career early on, really on the healthcare side, on the acute, subacute side, and sat across from some patients that were making some really, really hard decisions. And we didn't have access to patient lending like we do today. And so I really was fortunate to get involved with patient lending because it was just so needed, and had the honor of founding a company that many doctors are familiar with, Healthcare Finance Direct. That was my baby back in 2008 when the market crashed. I've been doing consulting quite a bit, and I also, also founded a receivable management company, a regulatorily compliant receivable management company called Choice Payment Services. So doing more of the consulting now.
Glad you are, and I'm so glad that you're on with us today, especially as we dive into this fourth quarter, because we know this could be a little bit of a pressure cooker at times with all those patients wanting to get in, revenue numbers, you're going to wrap up for the year and everything. So let's talk about the importance of team. Let's start with that. Whenever it comes to hitting these fourth quarter and annual goals, what's your biggest message that you've got to dentists out there about the team's role in these fourth quarter numbers?
Yeah, Kevin, I love the concept, and I love the fact that we're discussing this because it's all about collaboration, and I think it's about empowering your team to understand your numbers and understand your goals. Because if they don't understand what they're responsible for and what their contribution is, they're kind of chasing a rainbow that they don't know where the pot of gold is, right? At the end of the day. So I think it's super empowered to share with your teams what those numbers are, what you're looking to achieve, and how you're looking to achieve them together, and your vision for the future of the practice.
So we know a lot of patients are going to come in. They're trying to get in under the insurance window by the end of the year, get everything done. Some of them are going to need additional treatment. Is it tougher, in your opinion, this time of year to pitch treatment and case acceptance than it is maybe in June or July?
Yeah, I think it is, Kevin, because at this time of year, folks are starting to think about holidays. They're starting to think about, Thanksgiving, and I got to be putting, gifts. I got a bunch of gift giving to do, right? And the other thing that is really happening, I think overall, just in the economy, is it's just harder to obtain credit because we have over $17 trillion in debt in this country right now. So we have to be really mindful of how to open the door for patients to be able to move forward with care. If a patient is in your office, they want the care. They just need a methodology to pay for it, right?
Yep.
So
if they're in the office and there's that hesitation there, you and I talked on the Dental Assistant Nation podcast, and I love what you said about solving, not selling. Explain that concept to our listeners and why that's so important to you.
Yeah, I think it's been supported with the AI movement in our space. It is so important. Nobody wants to be sold anything, right? You can't sell free gold, by the way, to somebody who doesn't like you. I don't think it. I mean, my philosophy is always thinking about yourself as if you were that patient, because the patient in my mind is always the true north. And if you think in terms of what that patient really needs and you're solving a problem for them, like I said, nobody wants to be sold anything. You want feel like you're being taken advantage of. And I think that's why a lot of patients, they think, oh my goodness, I got to go get a second opinion on this, right? Because they're concerned. But I think if we come from a mindset of, hey, I'm here to solve for you and I'm here to be your provider for the long term, I'm in this with you, you're solving.
And we know those hygiene numbers are going to go up in the fourth quarter because again, everybody's trying to get in for that treatment at the end of the year and to get in under the window. But we also know so much is going to be found during that and suggested during that as well. Is it really just a matter of everybody being on the same page with passing the same information along to that patient about what this means and maybe how he or she could handle it with payments or with other options that the practice may offer?
I think it's important that the entire staff knows that you have different payment options available because that they need to be empowered to know. Again, we're going back to those numbers, right? They need to know that we have these financial options available. But I think it's also, if you're really going to look at solving, not everybody has the same credit profile. And it's really important that we look at different treatment protocols and we figure out what financing programs are best suited to a particular treatment. So give you an example. If I'm doing, and I know we're talking about hygiene here, but I'm just going to move to, like if we're talking about clear liners, right? If somebody wants to go down that path, the installment loan product is really very valuable in that model. If I'm doing routine dental care, that revolver is a great. So I think it's really a matter of designing loan products around treatment protocols and making sure that you have options available for all your patient types, because this is the one thing that we do in this industry that is probably one of my biggest pet peeves is that we enroll in one financing program and we expect everybody to fall into that bucket, and we're all different, right? So it's almost as silly as sending everybody, if you're going to buy a home loan, and sending everybody to maybe like one bank, big national bank that we all know, and expecting everybody to qualify. That's unrealistic. Yet we do that every day in patient lending. So I think it's really important to have your business model defined around the way that patients can pay for you easily.
And a lot of that's going to be your treatment coordinator, your financial coordinator,
Absolutely.
understanding and having those options as well. So is that something the dentist and the financial coordinator work together to have 3 or 4 different options that they can present to see what's best?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that I would say too is that just because somebody walks in the door with a new financing program, Kevin, and it's a kind of a shiny new object, right? Hold for a second, right? Because we want to make sure that this lending product matches your demographic too, right? There's so many different things. What happens in Walnut Creek, California, which happens in Manhattan, New York, are two totally different things, right? And then let's throw in Burlington, Iowa, right? I mean, these are 3 different markets within the confines of obviously the U.S., but these are different patients, and their financial budgetary needs are completely different in a lot of cases, right? So we have to be thinking ahead and thinking, quite frankly, if we were the one that was sitting in that chair and it's fourth quarter and I need to get in for treatment, how would I feel?
Absolutely. And I think another time that we ask, how would I feel, is if we think we're being judged based on appearance, what we think somebody else thinks we can afford, whatever that might be. And I think that's a big hurdle we've got to get across in dentistry as well.
You are so right on. There are so many patients that they drive in a beautiful car and, look a certain way, but maybe they have more debt than the next guy, right? I mean, the guy that walks in blue jeans and a t-shirt and he's got a savings account,
Yeah. It could all
it
pay
just, you
for in
can't
cash,
assume.
right?
You can't assume. You can't assume. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you share with every single patient in every single dialogue the different methodologies you have to pay, because this is the other thing. I may be able to pay cash today, but what if I need to pay? What about the first of the year? Life.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. We know that. And we know, again, fourth quarter of the year, everybody's trying to get up their revenues. So if there's one takeaway that people could implement for this fourth quarter to really get the ball rolling or to help boost them up a little bit, what would you suggest?
Empower your team so that everybody knows what these numbers are, so that you guys are all working together in tandem and you're rowing the boat in the same direction. And don't be afraid to share that information with your teammates. These people are there to support you and your vision. This is your practice, your vision, and your mission, right? And I think it's just so important. And for providers, as you go into these end of the year, we don't know what's going to happen next year, right? So I think it's always good to be looking at those EBITDA numbers, right? You've got to be smart about that. So maybe that was two, but maybe that was
No, you
two,
know what?
but
I'll take it. We'll squish them together.
yeah,
But and I'm just going to throw in there the importance of team empowerment because I work with dental assistants so much, and I will tell you, doctors who are listening to this, and you're wanting to keep those team members around in 2025 and beyond, they've got to know that you're invested in them and that you care about them and you really consider them part of that team. And this is, I
100%.
really think, that perfect time to remind them or tell them, depending on where you are in that communication
Yeah,
cycle. But this is the
yeah,
time to do it.
100%. Yeah, engage them. Yeah, that they and you're so right. People just want to be heard. People want to be a part of something, and you want that team collaboration approach because people will say over and over again. I've talked to it's just like a lot of dental assistants. I've talked to a lot of folks, and they just say, I just I just want to be part of something. I just want to know that I'm contributing and that I'm doing what's right. The other thing I think too, docs and a lot of them do this already, but catch these people doing some good things. Catch them and tell them.
There
Catch
you
them
go.
in the act of doing some good things. They just want to be valued, and you don't want to lose them because turnover is expensive, as we all know.
Amen. And when you close that case, celebrate. I
100%.
mean, do a high five. Absolutely. I think that's great. So, Nancy, I know you've got some great tools out there. I also know you got a great book out there. So let's make sure people know where to find you and learn more about that.
Yeah, I wrote. It was funny. I was actually posting something on LinkedIn. I think today, or maybe it's for tomorrow. But anyway, I didn't write Finance RX to sell a bunch of copies. I really wrote it for our industry. And I really feel like our industry needs to understand what so many other industries do every single day, which is use finance as the tool that it is, in this case, to close cases and to help solve treatment for more patients. So, yeah, so I wrote Finance RX, obviously available on Amazon, and to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, which is finance. Well, it's actually the company is Finance RX Venture Studio, FINRX studio.com.
And we'll put the link to the book, the link to Nancy's company in the show notes. So if you've got more information, hey, this is the time to be asking to make sure that every day that passes in the fourth quarter is another lost opportunity. So making sure that you're at the top of your game as we hit the end of the year and really push toward 2025. So, Nancy, thanks so much for being on today, my friend. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And hey, thanks to all of you who've listened to this episode of the drbycuspid.com podcast. We love bringing in experts to really help you focus on that business side of your practice. We know the clinical is important, but we know you're running a business as well. Until next time, it's Kevin Henry, host of the drbycuspid.com podcast and editor-in-chief for Dr. B, signing off and wishing you nothing but success.